The Teletronics leveling amplifier is among the oldest compressors in widespread use, and it's arguably one of the easiest to operate. Originally designed for use in broadcast studios, it's known for its smooth, transparent compression. But that's not to say it's without its own character. Boasting an array of transformers and vacuum tubes, including two 12AX7s, the LA-2A brings us that warmth and sheen we love from classic analog gear. However, despite its simplicity, the LA-2A does have some surprising behaviors that might confuse us the first time we use it. So today, we're going to demystify the LA-2A. The original design for what became the LA-2A was invented by Jim Lawrence. As an engineer in broadcast studios, he was tired of manually controlling dynamics with a fader and went about designing an automated solution. Having worked at Caltech's Jet Propulsion Lab, he was familiar with photocell technology and decided to use a T4 optical cell as the gain control mechanism in his compressor. This is why the LA-2A is often referred to as an optical compressor. Unlike other gain control devices, the T4 optical cell has very smooth attack and release times that are program dependent, which made it perfect for broadcasting where transparency and musicality was key. In addition to being program dependent, the LA-2A is also frequency dependent. Using an R37 Emphasis knob, you're able to filter the sidechain in a way that makes the compressor more sensitive to higher frequencies than lower ones. This feature was originally included to solve a problem in FM radio broadcasting, but it's very useful today for engineers who like to use the LA-2A on a bass guitar or even vocals and want it to be more forgiving in the low end. Now that we understand a little bit about its history and its design, let's take a look at how the LA-2A actually works. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that the interface is extremely simple. We have essentially two knobs for controlling our compression. But this is where the confusion begins. If you're a Westerner like me and read from left to right, your eyes might immediately navigate to the gain control knob. And you might assume that it's an input gain. The higher we bring it up, the more we drive the compressor and the more compression we get. Well, this isn't actually the case. This gain knob is an output gain and will only control the loudness of our signal coming out of the LA-2A. So that leaves us with the knob over here on the right, the peak reduction control. As you might expect, as we bring this up, we do get more compression, but something else very surprising happens. We hear a dramatic decrease in volume. Now, logically speaking, that might make perfect sense. That's what a compressor does. It controls gain reduction. But if you've ever used a different compressor, such as an 1176, then you're used to the signal getting louder as you bring the input up, at least until compression starts to occur. So why does the signal get quieter on the LA-2A? Well, it's because this peak reduction knob is not an input control. Instead, it is a gain reduction control, meaning it controls the split of the signal between the audible signal path and the gain reduction control circuit responsible for doing the actual compression. So the higher I bring up this knob, the more of the signal is being taken away from the audio path, which produces the signal we hear, and is being sent to drive the sidechain. So while the compressor certainly is doing its job, it's also true that our signal is quieter before any compression occurs. And we make up for that loss with the output control gain. Now let's take a listen to what this R37 Emphasis knob does. So you'll notice that as we bring the emphasis knob to the counterclockwise position, we get less compression on our bass guitar because it's becoming less sensitive to those lower frequencies. And so we have to bring our gain reduction knob up in order to get the same amount of compression. Now, the difference is subtle and might be hard to hear, but we can take a look at the outcoming waveform to see the difference. Here's the original bass track uncompressed. Compressed with the emphasis knob disengaged. And here it is compressed again with the emphasis knob engaged. Now even here the differences are very subtle, but you can see that with the emphasis knob engaged, the waveform is a little more similar to the original, retaining some of that dynamic range. Now let's talk about the LA-2A on vocals. Now a very popular method for compressing vocals using an LA-2A is to actually put an 1176 in front of it. We talked earlier about how the LA-2A has a program-dependent attack and release time. It's not the slowest compressor out there, but it takes time to recover after compressing. So on something like a vocal that has a lot of dynamic range and a lot of fast transients, it's helpful to use something like an 1176, which is very fast, to clamp down on those transients, making it easier for the LA-2A to do what it does well.
Didn't wanna know if I was doing it wrong. Didn't wanna know if I was doing it wrong.
So one last thing to mention here is this switch that changes the LA-2A from compression mode to limiting mode. Essentially all it does is change the ratio from 3:1 to infinity to 1, thus making it basically a brick wall limiter. I don't use it a whole lot in mixing contexts, and when I need a limiter on my mix bus, I'll usually use something else. But one interesting application would actually be for like a podcast vocal, like what I'm doing right now. But in most mixing contexts, I otherwise never use it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this take on the LA-2A. I hope you found it enlightening, and if you found it confusing before, I hope you find it less confusing now. I actually plan to do more videos featuring the LA-2A because I'm doing a series of videos on the deep fundamentals of compression that will heavily feature the LA-2A. So please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you are notified when those videos come out. If you or someone you know is in need of any kind of music-related services such as producing, recording, mixing, mastering, help with songwriting, I will leave a link to my email and my SoundBetter profile in the description below. Till then, have a great day.